Okay, hello everyone. This is my third take of this video, so I want to get through it as quickly as I possibly can. I'm going to probably make a separate video or something down the line. I'm not sure when. It's only been a week since I've owned these games, and I've done quite a lot on a lot of them. But I still have a few high scores that I want to show. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some kind of like high score video or gameplay video sometime down the line. I'm not sure when, but I'm just going to keep improving stuff and then report back to you guys on sometime later. I just want to do this as quickly as I possibly can because it's driving me insane. I've done this twice now, and the first time was a collaboration with PixelXQ. He was very helpful at explaining how things worked, and it was actually pretty fun until I realized that my Apple Watch didn't really want to sync the recording. It was about 30-something minutes. Didn't like it. Synced for over 24 hours. I'm not sure exactly when it's syncing and when it's not, but as of this moment in time before I started recording, it didn't sync. So yay. And then I did it again just a few hours before this, and Daniel decided to call me in the middle of it and interrupt my recording, which of course he couldn't know about, but it did cause my recording to go out. And of course, he's not going to like me for doing this, because really, you're not supposed to play the Hyperdash Extreme like the way I do. But let's face it, I do not want to run around breaking my arm, pulling the targets out of places, like, you know, they roll under the bed and stuff like that. It's something I do not want to do. Because let me describe how the Hyperdash Extreme works and what it does and what it looks like. So, the Hyperdash Extreme is made by Wild Planet. It's a different company. It's not Hasbro. And Wild Planet were very unknown for a time until about 2017, where we discovered the original Hyperdash and a bunch of other games that they made, including the Hyperdash Extreme. Now, the original Hyperdash to me is the better of the two, no question. It has better sound quality, better speech programming, better way of actually doing things with the targets, better level design, everything's better. The Hyperdash Extreme, to me, is like a Hyperdash Lite, or a Hyperdash, I don't actually know. And then if you want to go even further, there's another company, I'm not actually sure what it was called, but they released a game called the Ultra Dash, which uses the same principle like tagging targets, except it doesn't even have a level system, and it doesn't even use a voice. It's all through an LCD screen. So, and that was made much, much later. These were made in 2007 and 2008, from what I remember. The Ultra Dash was released in 2016 or 2017. I'm not actually sure when. About a few years after Wild Planet went bankrupt, because they did, apparently. So, yeah, the Ultra Dash, if you want to see the Ultra Dash review, go onto the Electronic Game Hub and look at a few of our recent videos. One of them is this one. It's fun. It's fun to listen to, that's all I'm saying. Okay, Hyperdash Extreme. So, it looks like a rocket. By that I mean, it's like circle-shaped, I guess, but it gets thicker as you go downwards, if that makes sense. So it's like a barrel that goes downwards. And then, as you go down, the first thing you see is the battery cover on one side, which takes 3 AA's, and the battery compartment on this is very, very, very hard to get the batteries out of, and consequently, I kind of don't want to do that. Although there really is no reason, because it doesn't save any high scores or anything. Next down, on the other side, the opposite side, is the speaker that has a really weird shape. And then you have the 3 buttons. First button, they're progressively get smaller. So the first button, they all click, by the way. I like the clicky buttons. First one selects games, moves through the selection of games or selections. Second button confirms your selection. Third button is used to reset. So like, it's just a reset button. If you hold it for long enough, it also turns the unit off. So to turn it on, you press this, and to go back to the initial screen to choose your game, you press this as well. Okay, and then there's the targets. Now, let me quickly go and give you a little explanation of how these targets work. So there's 6 of them, and hopefully I actually have all 6, but I'm not going to be playing using these targets, as you'll see in just a minute. Well, I'm not going to demonstrate, but just take my word for it. The targets sound like this. They're quite cheaply made, but really, they don't need to be made any other way. It doesn't matter. So, you tag one by... They're like, let me see. They are really weirdly shaped. They're like a barrel, but they have, like, protrusions on both sides, and on the sides of them, the parts that you're not actually tagging, are much thicker than the middle. The middle part is where the things connect to the little buttons inside of the unit that tell which target it is. So I'm going to put one target in, which makes this noise. Now, the target is literally inside the unit, so it's like in there. Contrary to the original Hyperdash, where you just scan it, and it's like a barcode or something, and thus you can easily tag things more than once at the same time. Now, I'm going to tag a second one, and this happens. Oh, come on. Let me see. Yep, that. The first target just fell out. So it's basically a swapping game. You swap the different targets with each other. Now, of course, me not exactly knowing which target is which, along with the fact that doing this takes forever, and the fact that targets roll all over the place, makes it basically impossible for me to play this normally. So instead, I'm just going to be using the buttons. To demonstrate how this works, I'm going to need the help of the actual unit. I'm going to play Freestyle Dash, which is the 4th mode included in this game. No, I didn't ask you for your opinion, Apple Watch. Shut up. Okay, I'm going to press the 3rd button. It's going to go...
Are you ready to dash? Choose game. Hyperdash Extreme.
If you let it go for long enough, it's going to re-prompt you and say it again. I'm going to press the 1st button to select through my... Quick Dash. Mathema Dash, and...
Freestyle Dash.
Freestyle Dash is what we want. Press the 2nd button to select.
Spread out your target. When you're ready, tag any color. Ready, dash.
Okay, when you're ready, tag any color. So I'm going to tag 1.
1.
Now let me show you how this works. So you have 3 different small buttons and 1 big button. Well, I guess in contrast with a few of the other ones. The big button is in between buttons small buttons 2 and 3, if that makes sense. So the big button always has to be pressed in combination with some other small buttons. So small button number 1 plus the big one is 1. Button 2 is blue, or 2. Button 3 is 3. They also have a color, so red, blue, green. Now, 1 and 2 is 4, or orange. And 5 is buttons 2 and 3 together, plus the big button. They're always plus the big button, remember.
5.
Yellow. And then buttons 1 and 3 is, not 1, that. The bonus ball. By the way, I'm not sure why it's called the bonus ball, because it's the same shape as all the other targets. So yes, the bonus is...
You found 18 target. Great job.
Oh, that's what it does if you let it go on for long enough. So, the bonus ball, what it does is when it calls it, basically, if you do it right, it will subtract some amount of seconds from the timer, making it much easier to do. So in Hyperdash Extreme and Mathema Dash, which are your main modes of doing commands, basically it times you. Every round has a time, and you can go up
Are
to...
you in Hyperdash Extreme? Choose player. 1 player.
You can go up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Players.
6 players at most.
1 player.
Although there is a stupid thing where it doesn't like tying rounds. So if one player has the exact same time, it doesn't matter.
Choose player. 1 player.
It just
Choose level
adds
1.
1 second to it, making it so that one player wins without really having the actual advantage. It's stupid.
Level 2, level 3, level 4.
And you go from level 1 to level 4.
Level 1.
I'm going to start on level 1 and go progressively over to level 2, 3, and 4. Every level has 3 rounds.
Level 1. When you're ready, tag
unlike the Hyperdash original, where every level had 4 rounds, and it actually made sense.
Level
So,
1, when you're ready,
yes, I
any
know.
color. Ready,
Another thing I
dash.
hate about this game is how many times it reprompts you. So I'm going to do this as quickly as I possibly can.
5, 1, 2, 5, 3.
Oh my
Great
god.
job. Your time is 5 seconds. Level 1. Way to go. Level 1. When you're ready.
So if you
any
mess it
color.
up, it doesn't
Ready,
really
dash.
disqualify you, at least not yet. It will in a bit, but not yet.
4, 5, blue, 3, red, 4, green. Great job. Your time is 7 seconds. Level 1. Awesome.
When you
Level
hear
1,
a
when you're
compliment
ready,
like
tap any
awesome
color.
or way to
Ready,
go,
dash.
that means that you got up to the next round, and this is round 3 of level 1.
5, 2, orange, 1,
I hope it's going to say bonus.
3, blue, bonus.
There.
2, yellow. Great job. Your time is 3 seconds. Level
Yeah, that
1.
was-
Awesome. Level 2.
That
When
was
you're
not,
ready, tag any color. Ready, dash.
That was not 3 seconds, that was just the bonus kicking in. Okay, level 2, this is where it gets interesting. There's a new music, with the same music that you heard before,
1,
which doesn't exist on the original Hyperdash, by the way.
green, 4,
And then you have...
yellow, bonus.
Oh, come on.
Yellow,
You have...
1, blue.
Oh, it didn't
Great
say it yet.
job. Your time is 9 seconds. Level 2. When you're ready, tag any color.
Okay, this is
Ready,
where it
dash.
gets a little bit harder, because if you fail a bunch of times, it's not going to let you through.
Orange, hyper dash.
Okay, when it asks you to do a Hyperdash, you have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
4,
That is something that the original Hyperdash does not do.
2.
Thank goodness, actually, because it takes
Great
forever.
job. Your time is 12 seconds. Level 2. Awesome.
There we go.
Level
It
2.
worked
When
this
you're ready,
time.
tag any color. Ready, dash.
Also, because of how the targets swap around, it inherently avoids you having to do
Level 2. When you're ready,
the
tag
same
any
target
color.
more than
Ready,
once.
dash.
So it's programmed not to let you do that, ever. It's not possible.
3. Hyper dash.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Green. 15.
15 is where you do 1 and then 5.
Bonus. Great job. Your time is 4 seconds. Level 2. Awesome.
right.
Level 2. When you're ready,
Okay.
tag any color.
By the
Ready,
way,
dash.
if you tag the bonus ball when you're not supposed to, which you're probably gonna hear me do that, it goes ew, and it adds to the timer.
5. Bonus. Yellow. 42. 4. 2. Hyper dash. Great job. Your time is 9 seconds. Level 2. Way to go.
Okay,
Level 3.
level
When you're ready,
3.
tag any color.
Back
Ready,
to the
dash.
same music again, same music as level 1. Now it gets much harder, as you'll see.
34. 3. Hyper dash. 3. 4. Reverse.
Reverse is where you do the last thing you did, which in this case is 3.
4.
I hope that actually makes sense to most people, because it took me a while to figure out how that works.
Great job. Your time is 17 seconds. Level 3. Awesome. Level 3. When you're ready, tag any color. Ready, dash.
Okay, here we go again.
Blue. 4. Reverse. 45. Hyper dash.
No.
4. 5. Reverse. 5. Green. Great job. Your time is 13 seconds. Level 3. Awesome. Level 3. When you're ready, tag
Okay,
any color.
it's gonna
Ready,
get
dash.
a little bit hard from this point. You'll see why.
2 plus 3.
Yep, we have math.
14. 5.
Oh no,
Hyper
no.
dash. Green. 1. Hyper reverse.
Yeah, hyper reverse. You have to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
2.
And because I failed so many
Your time is
times,
16 seconds. Level 3. When you're ready,
it's not
tag
gonna let
any
me
color.
through.
Ready,
So-
dash.
Basically, if you fail more than 3 times in a run, you're not gonna make it.
4. Bonus. 43. 4. 1 plus 2. Orange. Hyper dash. 4. 2. Reverse. 21. Great job.
Okay, got
Your
that.
time is 12 seconds.
12.
Level 3. Awesome. Level 4. When you're
Okay,
ready,
here we
tag
go.
any
Level
color.
4.
Ready,
Let's see if I can actually do this. I rage quit, well not rage quit, but like that's when Daniel interrupted me last time. Let's see if I can actually do this. Here we go.
Yellow.
There's one more thing that this does. A huge amount of calculations. You'll see.
Double double 45.
And then double double, you have to go 4, 5, 4, 5.
4. 53. 5. 1.
I'm taking it safe here. I'm doing it a little bit slower because I don't want to fail.
Great job. Your time is 21 seconds. Level 4. Way to go.
And it
Level
actually
4.
does
You're
let
ready
me
to
through.
any color.
So the key is not to be as fast as you possibly can be, or at least not when pressing the buttons, but to make it so you don't fail as much. How to focus on your button presses, if you know what I mean.
5. 4.
Because it is quite easy to tag the wrong targets, press the wrong buttons. Yep, 5 minus 0.
13.
We have minus now.
Hyper reverse.
And hyper reverse.
Double double 35. 3 plus 1.
The original Hyper Dash had an infinitely better sound for that clicking noise.
Reverse.
Oh, what? No. This sound. When it was asking you to do,
0 plus 5.
strike something multiple times, so double strike or triple strike,
Level 4. When you're
it would
ready,
play
any color.
a
Ready,
different kind of
dash.
beeping sound that I liked much better than in this this popping noise. So as you heard, the reverse failed me.
Level 4. When
So-
you're ready, 23.
I couldn't. Oh,
2
come
plus
on.
2. Hyper dash. 4.
I need to be really careful here.
Hyper reverse. 5.
Actually got that right.
2. 3 plus 1. Double double 21.
No.
2. Red. Great
Okay,
job.
is it gonna
Your
work?
Time is 20 seconds. Level 4. When you're ready, tag
No.
any color. Ready, dash.
No? You can't even fail more than once?
4.
Fine.
1 plus 0. 41. 5 minus 0. 1. Double double 35. 3. 3 plus 1. Blue. Hyper dash. Blue.
No.
1 minus 0. Reverse. 1 plus 3. 1. Great job. Your time is 26 seconds. Level 4. Way to go.
Okay,
Level
good.
4. When you're ready,
Good.
tag any color. Ready,
This is the
dash.
third stage of level 4. It gets extremely hard from here. It's even more targets. Here we go.
Green. Bonus.
Don't forget the colors. Green is 3.
5 minus 3. 1 plus 3. 21. 5 minus 2. Double double 14. 0 plus 3. Blue. Reverse. 5 minus 3. Hyper reverse. 4. 2. 13.
But it didn't actually show off any of the really hard ones. It gets hard. It used to get harder.
28 seconds. Level 4. Way to go. Are you
There.
ready to dash? Choose game.
That's all it
Dash
does.
Extreme.
If you manage to do it correctly, it just plays the same sound and then plays the victory sound, and that's all it does, and then goes back to the menu. So
Are
yes,
you ready to dash? Choose game.
Hyper Dash Extreme is actually possible. Now let me show you quickly. I'm going to do 2 players with level 4.
Hyper dash 2 player level 4 player 1 level 4. When you're ready, tag any color.
And
Ready, dash.
see what happens when you do multiple players.
Bonus. 2. Reverse. Hyper dash.
I wonder if the bonus counts twice. Oh no.
1 plus 3. 0 plus 3. 2. 14. Hyper reverse. Orange. 5. Great job. Player 1. Your time is 19 seconds. Player 2. Level 4. When you're ready, tag
Okay.
any color. Ready, dash.
I think the bonus actually did count twice.
Green. 1 plus 3. Reverse. 4. Hyper dash. 0 plus 4. 35. Bonus.
No.
Green. Hyper reverse.
No. I think you go on regardless.
Great
in multiplayer
Player
mode.
2, your time is 16 seconds. Player
Oh,
1,
wow.
your time is 19 seconds. Player 2, your time is 16 seconds. Player 2 wins the round. Player 1, level 4. When you're ready, tag
Now
any
I'm gonna
Ready,
beat this the multiple rounds because I want to show you what happens at the very end after you get level 4
Player
done.
1, level 4. When you're 3 plus 2.
I've never had this actually happen. I just
Double,
wonder,
double, 31.
like other
Double,
if other
green.
like other Wild Planet
0
games,
plus 4.
does it do the same
3
thing
minus 2.
here? Because I haven't done this yet on my own unit.
2. Reverse. Hybrid reverse. 2 plus 3. Orange. Hyper dash. Great job. Player 1, your time is 25 seconds. Player 2, level
Also,
4.
it doesn't
When
go
you're ready, tag
on
any color.
for some reason.
Ready, dash.
Okay, come on.
Yellow. Bonus. Hyper dash. Bonus.
Ooh.
5. 31. Double double. 31. 4 minus 1. Bonus.
Wow.
Reverse.
3 bonus.
Hyper dash. Great job. Player 2, your time is 9 seconds.
That is
Player 1,
amazing.
your time is
25 seconds.
Player 2, your
Versus
time is
9 seconds.
Player 2 wins the round. Player 1, level 4. When you're ready, tag
Okay,
any color.
one more round.
Ready, dash.
2 more rounds actually for player 1 and 2. Let's go.
Red. 2. Hyper dash. 24. 1 plus 1. 1. 6 minus 4.
There we go. 6 minus 4.
1 plus 3.
It's a little bit harder.
Reverse. Double double. 13.
No.
1 minus 0. Hyper reverse. 1 plus 3. Great job. Player 1, your time is 26 seconds. Player 2, level 4. When you're yellow. 4. 9 minus 8.
Yep, that's as hard as it gets.
1 plus 3.
Okay, I have had it say 10 before.
21.
No.
5 minus 0.
Is it gonna let us through now?
Double double.
Now that we've
13.
both failed?
0 plus 5.
No.
Reverse. 10 minus 8.
There we go. 10 minus 8. That's the hardest
Hyper
problem.
reverse. 3. 5. 42. 4 minus 3. Great job. Player 2,
That took
your
forever.
time is 34 seconds. Player 1, your time is 26 seconds. Player 2, your time is 34 seconds. Player 1 wins the round. Player 1, your time is 70 seconds. Player 2, your time is 59 seconds. Player 2 wins the game.
There we go.
Are you ready?
That's
to
what
dash?
it does.
Choose game. Hyper dash extreme.
So you can get numbers quite easily, and it also says wins the game, which is quite interesting.
Are you ready to
Now,
dash? Choose game. Hyper dash extreme.
Now, the most interesting part would be if you were to have 6 players and you were to all play Hyper Dash Extreme, see what times you would get.
Hyper dash extreme. Choose player.
that's not
Are
what I
you
wanted.
ready to
Okay.
dash? Quick dash.
Let's quickly go through Quick Dash and Mathemadash.
Quick dash. Choose player. 1 player.
Just one player.
1 player. Choose level 1.
I'm going to do level 4 because, let's face it, it doesn't get any easier.
Level 4. Level 4. When you're ready, tag bonus ball. Ready, dash.
So what it's going to ask you to do is tag bonus, and then tag, it's just going to ask you to do Hyper Dashes in series.
Level when you're hyper dash.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hyper. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hyper. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hyper. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Although, you have to do it without failing, so if you mess it up once,
Hyper dash.
you're screwed.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hyper dash. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hyper dash. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
There you go.
Great job. Your time is 34 seconds. Level 4. Way to go. Are you ready
And that's
to
it.
dash? Choose game. Hyper dash extreme.
So if you do this as quick as in like, I don't know, maybe like a minute or something, then you win. Same with multiple players. Okay, and then
Are you ready for the
Mathemadash.
freestyle dash? Quick dash. Mathemadash. 1 player. When you're ready, tag any. Are
No.
you ready? Mathemadash. 1 level 4. Level 4. When you're 1 times 1.
It's just one plus, minus, and
1
times.
plus 4. 2 minus seconds.
Yeah.
Level 4. Awesome. Level 4. When you're ready, tag any color.
That's
Ready,
that's
dash.
about it. That's all Mathema Dash is, and that's literally all the Hyper Dash Extreme has to offer. In comparison with the original Hyper Dash, which had the normal Hyper Dash game had a few really interesting things, including the bonuses were not actually a separate target. They could be anything. When it says bonus strike, you would strike any of the targets, and it will give you actual bonuses instead of just disabling. Subtracting from the timer. It would either speed up the timer or slow it down, or it would add or remove a certain amount of targets that you still had to do in the current round. That's random. That's completely random which one you would get. Then there's freeze, which is quite interesting. It would just freeze. And there's the ones where you would get what was it? You had double reverse. I'm not sure if it's in here. I don't think it is, but in other I'm not sure where it is, but I think on the original Hyper Dash it would say double reverse. And you'd have to do the things that you did twice in the last two commands. And I think that's about it. There's a bunch more that the original Hyper Dash doesn't have that this does, but it really isn't that big of a deal. You know, the stuff like 54 and double and all that. It's like moving between the different targets wasn't really that big of a thing. It was more double strikes and triple strikes in the original. And then there was the other modes. There was something called Micro Dash, which is like a Simon type thing where you would get presented with a sequence of targets that you have to tag, and it would keep adding until you messed it up. And then there's Team